With fluctuating job markets, home loss, and a roller coaster economy, many of our external structures of security seem to be unstable, and a greater level of uncertainty is growing. Now more than ever, people are looking for authentic answers. They're looking for a way to stabilize their life and achieve a level of freedom from outside sources. Joining me is Derek Rydall. He's a best-selling author of Emergence, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change. Derek is here to talk about how to find the solid ground and the abundance that you seek in the only place in the world that no one can ever touch, which is within yourself. Welcome, Derek. Thanks for being here.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, truly.
Absolutely. So emergence, what is emergence, and how did you come to this concept of the law of emergence?
Yeah, well, like so many people, I struggled for years, really a couple decades, to improve my life, heal my childhood, figure out what I'm here to do, work harder, work smarter, attract bigger, all that stuff. Just self-improvement, basically. I was on a very long, hard self-improvement journey. And all of my efforts to improve myself, the only thing I really improved was my ability to describe why my life was so messed up. You know, I got,
Yes.
I got very good at that. It's like when I was 10 and my dad looked at my report card and said, I was all A's. It's like, what's with the B, son? That was the moment, you know. So I got very good at understanding why life was terrible and I was messed up. But there was no real improvement. In fact, I got more frustrated. I felt more inadequate. It was like I was trying to dig myself out of a hole. And the more I dug, the deeper in the hole I got. And eventually that pain and frustration of trying to improve my life forced me to get addicted to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. And people find in all kinds of ways. But eventually I had an overdose and I almost
Wow.
died.
Wow.
And I remember the doctor telling me I was lucky to be alive when I woke up in the emergency room with the IV snaking out of my arm. And I thought, I can't even do that right. So
And then
I
what did
have
your
to,
parents say at that point? Ooh.
well, yeah, my mom had to actually come get me. I'm an adult, you know, and she had to come get me. And that was just humiliating. And I couldn't understand, how did all my efforts of improving myself get me there? And I thought I just need to work harder or smarter or attract or something. And I redoubled my efforts. And for a while, things got a little momentum. But then I was shooting a film in Jamaica, and everything started falling apart again. And I was like, I cannot catch a break here. And I went diving in a coral reef, praying to get lost from everything above, and realized just how powerful my prayers were, because I did get lost and I got trapped and I was stuck in a pocket of coral, like an underwater booby trap tomb out of an Indiana Jones movie, with fire coral and spiked coral. And I
Ouch.
couldn't move, I couldn't swim, I couldn't go down. I was stuck. Nobody knew I was there. It was starting to get dark. And I realized I was going through all of these, you know, how am I going to get out? You know, my cleverness, my affirmations, my ego, even looking for a little bit of fame. I even imagined that I would die, I would drown, and Hollywood would, you know,
Miss you or
this
something.
lost talent that never existed. And it's like, you know, even in our last gasp, the ego was still searching. But there was a moment where there was nothing left, like those old reel-to-reel tapes. All the tapes were gone. It was like,
Ah.
and there was nothing. I tried to negotiate, you know, God, if you get me out of this, I promise to go to church on Sunday. There was no let's make a deal. And I realized that I was going to drown. It wasn't, I hope I don't. I'm afraid of it. I'm going to drown now. And there was, all that was left was true surrender, unconditional surrender. And in that moment, there was a flash of light. And I saw that this guy I'd been trying to improve all my life was a fiction, an amalgamation of parental fantasy, peer pressure, societal conditioning, and nothing I ever did was going to make him enough. But I was aware of another self that was never broken, so he didn't need to be fixed. And he was already complete, so there was nothing to improve upon. Now, this all happened in a flash, but in the next moment, I was standing outside the coral reef looking down where I'd been trapped, and the exit was inches behind me the whole time. And the whole reef was like a maze I'd been swimming through all my life, following all these brightly colored things, drowning, gasping for air. And I realized something had broken in me. Humpty Dumpty had fallen off the wall. And I slipped over the other side and I was free, but I was not the same person. And I pulled out of society. I tried to become a monk. I went to a monastery. You know, we've talked a little bit about this story. And the monastery didn't work out too well for me. A week into silence and fasting, I broke into the monk's kitchen and stole food out of the refrigerator. And it's like, maybe that's not my path. But basically, I cloistered myself in my apartment and I went on this inner journey to understand what happened to me. Excuse me, what had happened to me? What did I see? Because I couldn't go back. And what I discovered was this truth that, like every seed in nature, the oak is already in the acorn. The pattern of its potential, its purpose, its perfection. The acorn doesn't go out and achieve oakhood. It doesn't improve itself into oakhood. It doesn't have to attract the oak parts. When the conditions are right in the soil, when it surrenders to the soil and the conditions match the pattern within the seed, its potential naturally emerges. And I saw that this was the universal principle on all of this planet and really in the whole universe, that we are in an emergent universe, that it's already in us.
I love what you said, that nothing about our purest soul is ever broken. That's so
Never.
beautiful. Yes.
Never. No amount of past experience or circumstance or condition, like a seed that has been covered over by dirt, by concrete, cement, when the right moment happens, it will crack open, it'll find the light, and it'll move through the cracks toward the light, and it'll blossom.
Yeah.
And that's the truth about us. Who we really are, our purpose, our potential, and everything we need to fulfill it has not been hurt or harmed in any way. It's intact, but we haven't been taught how to bring it forth.
So after you went and tried to be a monk and go to the monastery and then hole yourself into the apartment, how did your life change when you really got through that transition period?
Well, the first thing was, and we can't underestimate the power of the realization, really the revelation. I'm not broken. You mean I'm not lacking? You mean I'm not just an empty shell that came here to fill myself up? That actually it's already in me. It shifted the whole locus of my power, the whole locus of my agency, the whole locus of my interest. I suddenly became interested more in what's in me. Who am I? Not what do I have to be or do or get or achieve to be someone, but I'm already someone. I'm not on my way to more love or abundance or God or heaven. I'm coming from it. Just like the sun, the ray of the sun isn't on its way to the sun. The tree branch isn't on its way to the tree. The wave isn't on its way to the ocean. It's coming from it. It's emerging from it. We are an emergent expression of a perfect life and a unique individual expression of it. And so to see that is to come home again. It's the prodigal son going away and spending all of his or her stuff and being like broken in a hovel and going, can I come home? And it was suddenly like, I've been waiting for you all along. So I came home to myself. That's what happened.
So when things go wrong, or say you do want to create something new and you want to find different ways of spreading your word and your message, and there's challenges, or there's costs associated, or there's big, huge bills that come up, like college tuition.
Yes.
Can you emergence your way through that? Tell me.
Emergence your way through.
Let's go,
That's
yeah.
my new tagline. When the bills hit, emergence it.
The money will emerge from me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, what's in you, that pattern of potential and the substance of it, and this is quantum physics, this is metaphysics, but the substance of your life is not material. That material, consciousness, intelligence is not an emergent property of matter. Matter is an emergent property of what matters. Matter is an emergent property of spirit or consciousness. And when you want to do something, you want to spread your message, you want to build a business, you want to have a family, it's important to understand again that desire, that burning desire, is not a sign of what's outside that you need to go get, but a sign of what's inside trying to get out. In fact, the word desire comes from a similar meaning of the sire, of the father, of the creative principle. So it's trying to show you you're pregnant with something. And so that's already the guarantee that you have it. And if you were a mother pregnant suddenly with a baby and you felt it kick, the kick is like the desire. And suddenly you're like, you feel the kick and you're like, oh my God, I want a baby, I want a baby. And you start running around trying to get a baby. What's going to happen? Pretty soon, those nice men with good upper body strength and white jackets are going to come take you away because you're crazy. And so when we feel the desire, the first step is to actually get excited and acknowledge it's in me already. But then what is necessary is that we have to come into integrity with it. We have to come into alignment with it. We have to begin to think and feel and act and talk like the person that is that. Like the mother who knows she has a baby, she starts acting like a mother who's having a baby. She starts designing the nursery. She starts visualizing the family. She starts taking better care of herself. She's bringing her body and her world into alignment to give birth to that. Or another way to think of it is,
True.
your favorite music or information is broadcasting, right? I mean, it's broadcasting right now on this station, but there's other stations that we're immersed in right now. But we're not; those stations aren't manifest until we tune our dial so the frequency matches. Now, we don't make the station happen; we make it welcome. It's already broadcasting.
Some,
So all the challenges. I just want to say real quick: the
yeah.
challenges when we find ourselves, why is this problem happening, or this thing that's in my way? When we understand that what's in the way is the way, that the weight, the burden that we're asked to carry, we don't pray to make the burden light. We pray to get stronger, and then we do what it takes to build the muscle. That's what makes us the right and the ready instrument to have the capacity to bring forth what's next. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us.
So if you're in a state of maybe physical pain or illness, what you're saying is to allow to emerge from you the feeling of wholeness, the feeling of wellness, and to have that come through you and through that illness, through that pain, so that it emerges to a place of wholeness.
Yeah, well, there's a few things,
There's
and
got
it's
to be more
important.
steps there, yeah.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about something as painful, and we want to be careful not to diminish or in any way lessen how hard it is to deal with problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a single mother or a parent struggling with a child with a disability or a drug addiction, or you've got a disease. This is not airy-fairy gobbledygook, and I want to be very careful. And it's certainly not a blame the victim thing. That it's not your fault. That's the first thing I want people to understand. If you're suffering, it is absolutely not your fault, because you didn't create the pattern of fear, limitation, lack, separation that is now using you as a host and producing challenges. Just like I tell the story of a school of fish are going around, and one fish is acting crazy and kicking other fish and cutting in line and being a jerk, and they're trying to reason with him or her, and eventually they're like, I'm out. And they leave the fish only to reveal the fish has been caught on a hook. Right? So we've been hooked by these universal patterns of separation, limitation, there's not enough, I'm not enough. All of
Right,
that. We
right.
didn't make those patterns, but we've been hooked by them. So it's not our fault. But once we realize that we've been hooked by a belief, that when we're afraid, that fear is actually pointing to a lie that we've been believing. And that lie is pointing to a truth that we are being called to apprentice under. So,
Yes.
so if you find yourself having a physical challenge, what is the belief that you're having? I'm broken, I'm not enough, I'm not supported, there's not enough, it's never going to work out. It's important to understand that that's not true. It may be your experience and your belief, but if you want to be responsible for your life, now you have to challenge those memes, those thought viruses, and begin to turn.
So how do you do that? Because mostly those are unconscious beliefs where
Correct.
maybe you can't pay your rent and you're living in a place of massive debt. So where do you get through the fear and the survival and the how am I going to make this work to actually identifying those unconscious beliefs? Does it take somebody else to help?
It certainly is helpful to have somebody else, right? It's absolutely possible to do it in our own, but here's the first step that has to happen. This is what I said happened to me when I had that near-death experience. The whole focus of my attention changed. Instead of how can I manipulate my world to get what I need to feel good about myself, which is the core human pattern. It shifted to more than I want to fix, change, heal, manipulate, or control anyone or anything. I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to know who I really am. I want to know what's really running me. Because before that, you don't have free will without expanded awareness. You are just reacting to unconscious patterns. But the only way to know what those are is two ways. One is through enough suffering and pain that it breaks you down, your mind gives up, and you have a realization. The other way is consciously intending, becoming a student of truth, a thought leader of your life, a contemplative of know thyself. Like, what is, for example, with every issue, whether it's wealth, health, relationship, work, personal growth, we think that what it's about is I need to fix my money issue or fix my body issue or fix my relationship
What's
issue.
out there, yes.
Right. That's the outer goal, and that's the red herring, so to speak. But what it's really about always is some state of being that we want to feel. We want to feel safe. We want to feel worthy. We want to feel trusting. We want to feel like we're enough. There's like five core patterns. And early on in our childhood, we get an experience that says, I'm not safe, I'm not enough, there's not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And then we create a map of reality, a self-concept, and a survival kit. And we launch into the world to try to be, do, achieve, create what will finally make us feel
To solve
safe,
all those things,
secure,
yes.
worthy, lovable, and enough. But what flipped for me was I saw the feeling of enoughness, worthiness, safety, lovability is a 100% inside job. And that you cannot purchase freedom and worthiness and love by any outer condition. Now, the outer condition serves as a goal that when you know what you're really after is discovering and activating those qualities within yourself, that the money issue is not about money, it's about knowing you're supported, knowing you're safe, knowing you're worthy.
Yes, yes.
So that when you go for the money issue, all the challenges that come up and all the ways they show you where you're scared and afraid and weak is not about the money. It's that goal is allowing you to discover where you need to get stronger within yourself, where you need to believe and feel and be connected again to your worthiness, your safety, your love, your ability to trust life. That's what we're really up to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the goals for temporarily are a shiny object. They're temporarily satisfying. They could be in a huge way satisfying, but it's only temporary unless you get to the core of why the real truth
the
of it.
soul goal, the soul goal. You didn't come here to get anything. You've already got it if you brought it all with you. But you came here to embody more of what you already are. So the outer goal attracts you. It's a projection of more of you. The meaning of it is more self-value, more worth, more power, more love, more lovability. And then we project it onto the goal and think that's the source of it. And now we're lost in a loop. But when we recognize, no, the goal is the weight I'm using to lift and do reps to build the inner qualities of lovability, worthiness, power, strength. Life is for me. Everything I need is within me. The goal, if we go through the emergence path, is necessary. You need the goal. Because if you don't have the challenge, you won't activate your potential. Just like in nature, without a forest fire, the jack pine won't open up to its potential. So we need the challenge. We just have to recognize that it's calling for more to come out of us, not to pull more to us.
So this is what it would look like if you're in a place of maybe the company failing or hitting rock bottom or filing for bankruptcy or a massive health crisis, is because you've looked at the shiny object for a certain amount of time, you've had a certain level of success, but there's not enough authentic truth behind or underneath it to sustain it. And that's so I find that very interesting, because you hear about this all the time of companies that are just about to go bankrupt, and then they get that investor, or they are just about to call it quits, and they get that last ray of help, and it completely turns everything around. And usually it's associated with a dark night of the soul, a breaking down of what you thought was true, and that emergence of what is really your own truth. So yeah, the question is, how do you do it without having to go through that breakdown,
Yeah.
that
Well,
near-death experience? Yes.
part of it is understanding that fundamentally life is completely for us. Life has only one agenda: to fulfill the potential in every seed of creation. Love's only message is, what do you need, my beloved? Let me fulfill it in you. And life is trying to live us and love us and surprise and delight us and put itself on display as us. But we've bought into a belief that we have a life apart from the life that we're involved in. And that's why Ralph Waldo Emerson said, you must remove your bloated sense of nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. So what happens is, when that crisis, it's like you're going to awaken to your freedom and you're going to experience the amazingness of life, but you have two ways. We're going to drag you kicking and screaming into heaven, or you can choose to go voluntarily. And of course, the problem is, great idea, how do I do it? But what
Yes.
happens in those challenges and crises is we finally let go of control. We finally crack the false self. Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall. And in that opening, in that crack of the shell, what's always been in us trying to come out goes poof, it emerges.
So
And
then,
so that's why that happens.
are you then immune to what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, with the fluctuations and the uncertainty and the loss? Are you immune to that if you really truly get in touch with what is emerging from inside of you?
You definitely get inoculated from a lot of the thought viruses that will otherwise grab you and tempt you to believe you are lacking something, or it's in the past or in the future.
Or the bottom's
You
going to fall out or
all of
something?
that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enlightenment is really, you're falling. There's nothing to hold on to, and there's no bottom. And you begin to realize that as you go through this journey. But you have to go through stages to let go of the control mechanisms and the fear and coping mechanisms and the protective and the armor around our heart. It's a journey of letting go and discovering, as I let go more and I embody more, life lives me more, loves me more, grace happens. I live by grace, not by the sweat of my brow, not by struggle and striving, but like, this is, and this is not a religious statement, but when Jesus talks about the Sermon on the Mount and says, look at the lilies of the field. They don't toil and spin. They don't make their own clothes, but they're more beautifully clothed than King Solomon, the richest guy around. Look at the birds. They don't store in barns. They don't have 401ks, but they're taken care of. What's up with you people? Don't you get it? You're part of nature. Nature wants to take care of you. And so that's the message we're trying to get back to again. There's a natural process. Life will love us and lift us and guide us and direct us and provide for us. But the difference is, unlike nature, which is indigenous, we're endogenous, meaning it's within us, and we're meant to do it as a conscious collaborator with life. Whereas the flower doesn't have a choice.
Yeah,
We
but
are
the
meant to.
flower also doesn't have to pay rent. I mean, they need
Well,
less.
it
The
does.
bird
It
needs
does.
less.
It does pay rent. All of that is provided for it.
Yeah.
And when you're living in alignment with who you really are, and you're living in alignment with that source of that insight, that inspiration, that energy, that power, it will show up. It will manifest in your field as everything that you need. And it will manifest as you being guided to say and do within that larger ecosystem.
It does. I mean, this sounds great, and that I'm a huge fan. But I'm
Oh,
here.
no,
I'm here to
respect.
provide the perturbation here, to challenge this.
Totally. I
So
love
you
it.
and I know a lot of people in our industry of personal development who are so passionate about their mission, and so they just come from pure heart with their mission, yet they cannot seem to make ends meet, and they're
Totally.
struggling financially. We know a lot of these people, and not just the personal development industry, but all industries. Someone who's a healthcare provider, or really loves giving massages, yet is struggling, really helping people.
Totally.
So what's the disconnect there? I mean, helping
Totally.
the environment, giving of themselves, shirt off their back, yet cannot get, they get taken advantage
There's
of.
so much there, Lisa. I mean, yeah. So first of all, what I want to be clear is, and what's different about the way that how I live and what I teach is, This is not magical thinking. This is not airy-fairy. This is not just think of a shiny red bike and it's going to show up at your back door. No, that has hurt us tremendously. That's why I say it's time to replace your wishbone with a backbone.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that this is not about
I agree.
airy-fairy. Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Buddha, Jesus, whatever, Oprah, Abraham Lincoln, whatever, Martin Luther King, these were not weak or timid or sitting around in lotus position with a halo over their head or an inverted pyramid holding crystals.
True.
They were out there giving sermons on mounts. They were kicking up the sand. They were pounding on the doors. They were working their you know what's off. And instead of having their butt in their mouth, they got off their butt and got moving. And so this is what I mean. Spirit, and this is what Marianne Williamson talks about.
Yes, I was just going to say this.
Spirituality is not airy-fairy, it's airy-gritty. It's real. And we need to embody these truths. It's easy to love the person over there across the ocean. Love the person in front of you. Then we'll talk how
In the
spiritual you
mirror.
are,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes,
And the person that's delivering your mail or your whatever, or
yes.
giving you your Starbucks not right, and suddenly Mrs. Yoga mat spiritual thing and wants to kill the barista. This is what we're really talking about.
Yes,
And so
yes.
it's about transcendence integrated with the most imminent practical. Balance your you know what checkbook, deal with your stuff, have the hard conversations, have the courage to live your truth, especially in the areas where you're afraid to. That's real spirituality. That's what Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, etc., what we're teaching. And that's what has changed the world every single time. Not this yoga mat, yoga latte
Spiritual
nonsense.
bypass. Yes,
Total spiritual. But I want
yes.
to be clear, it's not that there's not value. It's there's two polarities. There is the feminine, open, unbounded, unstructured, pure life force, pure yumminess. We must embrace that. That's the left versus the right. That's the feminine versus the masculine. But then there's the masculine or the right. There's the structure. There's the hierarchy. There's the function. There's the action. They are not in opposition. They are two aspects of a whole. And all the conflict and divide we see is an argument between these two parts of ourselves. And we have to heal that war within ourselves.
That's interesting. So it's a combination of both. You can take the divided country we're in right now. So what you're saying, that this is a combination of, yes, feeling into the divine feminine, yes, being that source of freedom and strength at the same time. You're saying it's a combination of both.
Yes.
How does that coexist?
Yeah, well, that's the question. That's the experiment. That's the workshop we're in. And the first thing is to realize they're not opposites. They're not separate. That the yin and the yang, the masculine, the feminine, chaos and order, freedom and commitment, sovereignty and unity, they're all part of one whole integrated expression of life. And so, wherever we're struggling, we are in some way in a conflict with that core polarity. We're struggling from freedom versus commitment. We're struggling versus sovereignty versus unity, selflessness versus selfishness. And you see that rippling across all of our core political and social issues.
Yes.
You see that in the core of our relationships. And the emergence process is about, first and foremost, discovering what is the truth that's emerging in you. What is that call that's coming that you are not going to let go to voicemail anymore, but you're going to answer? What is that truth? What is that vision? And then it's, who would I be if I was living it? As Gandhi said, you must be the change, not just go out and make some spare change. You have to be it. And so then you begin to get a sense of, this is the character I would be holding and bringing to my life if I was living that. Then we have to get about designing a way of life and a practice to really look at where we're not being that person, where we're not thinking and feeling and being and doing that's in integrity with
Yes.
that. And what we'll bump into is this core conflict. Why, am I going to isolate and hide, or am I going to be out there in the world? Is it a one or the other, or is it an
Yes.
integration of both? You
Yes.
get what I mean?
Yes, put
This is a
yourself
big
out there.
conversation. This is a big conversation.
Yes. Well, I mean, we look at Marianne Williamson doing this, where she has been criticized for being a crystal-loving, fairy-waving politician. And It's the exact opposite. She is standing for the word love in a political arena where there is a lack of morality and has been the norm and accepted for decades. And she's calling out truths that are really threatening a lot of people. And of course they're going to try to diminish her. And that is the case with anyone who's ever going against the grain, trend setting, disrupting. I'm sure many people watching here have tried this in their life and been criticized for it, and then maybe been a little ahead of their time and prevailed. And we've done it in our own lives. And it does take that. I think this is the world we're living in now, though, Derek, this is the world where people, this is why social media is so popular. It's truth. It's truth bites. It's I'm having a horrible day today. Look at this giant problem in my life. There's not all glory maybe on Facebook. When you really get into Instagram and some of these other ones, you don't see it all being so pretty. It's all just being truthful. Yeah, it's getting there.
It's getting there. Yeah, I talk a lot about being a thought leader and developing the next generation of thought leaders, but it's important to know that all of us are being called to be the thought leader or the truth teller of our own life.
Yes.
That's where it has to start. And that's why the simplest and most radical way to be not ahead of the curve, but to be in integrity with what's really trying to emerge in you is to ask that question, what is being said that I'm not hearing? What am I saying that's not being heard? What do I need to say that I'm not saying?
Yes.
What do I really feel? What do I really want? What do I really need? What would I do if I knew I was supported? What would love grant me? We have to begin to ask these questions and desire more than we want to manipulate and control our life to discover who am I really? Why am I here? What am I here to do and be and say? And I mean, even in your intimate relationship, especially, first of all, in the container called yourself.
Yes.
Then the container called your partnerships.
Yes.
And then the container called community or family. If you're not living the truth, if you're not telling yourself the truth every day, you're already out of integrity, and that's why you're suffering. I can tell you. That's why there's lack, stagnation. And then if you're not extending that truth to the most intimate relationships, that's why you're struggling. That's why there's stagnation, because life is truth, truth is life, and it cannot come out. And love is the power that gives you the courage to tell the truth and live the truth so that you can live the life abundantly, joyfully, and powerfully.
You're meant to live. A lot of relationships, you see divorces happen after 30, 40 years of marriage because a lot of women who are products of the 50s were taught not to speak up, not to say anything, to be very compliant with taking care of the family. And yes, there's definitely a place for that. But yet, there gets to be a point where you're done and you have to speak your truth. And that's why some of the relationships end, because women are terrified to speak their truth. And it is now...
It has to end in some, terrible way, because eventually life will not be denied, especially if you're doing this kind of work in your life. If you're praying or meditating or desiring to be more, just know you are activating life force in you. And as Brené Brown says, unexpressed life or creativity is not benign. It metastasizes. It turns into rage, depression, anxiety. Yes. So you're activating it. And by the way, it's happening on the planet right now more powerfully than ever. The life force, the truth force, the love force is trying to emerge. The next iteration of a new paradigm of a world that works. And what's happening is the old guard, the egoic structure of trying to hold on to control, power, safety, security, is fighting for its life. And what's breaking through the concrete of that are little blades of grass and little flowers of individuals that are speaking the truth and going to the light. And you see people are starting to move in that direction.
Yes.
And we must, all of us have the courage to play our part in that. And I guarantee the new level of the world will emerge. But it requires...
Thank you. It gives us possibility. It gives us hope. It gives us humanity back. You hear these statistics, and environmentalists have been telling us for decades the Earth is heating up and changing faster at a faster rate than it ever has before. The temperature in the water in Alaska is what it is now. It was predicted to be in 2065. We've been hearing statistics like this for decades, yet we needed to hear decades of those statistics to allow us to finally start to break through with these incredible renewable solutions, and it's now speeding up. These solutions are speeding up, they're breaking through, they're going against big business. We're just getting started, even though this has been the conversation for decades. But when we realize that the earth that we're leaving to our children and our children's children will not be existing unless these types of blades poke through the concrete and really make a huge difference. I actually do see it happening, Derek. I do see it happening, and I am very hopeful because the conversation is now, I mean, I loved what we saw with the climate change conversation with the political candidates. The fact that that conversation even happened was fantastic. It was very, very needed. Didn't make much of a difference in the political arena. It just needed to happen because it was about the environment. And so I do see that there is hope. I do see that there is more than hope.
There is more than hope. But I want to speak to the people listening or watching a very important, what my message is, and that is there is nothing but potential and possibility. Your potential is always infinitely greater than the problem you're facing. But it will not just happen to you. Life does not just happen, it happens just, meaning the proper understanding and application of the principles of what brings forth more life. And the key principle I want people to understand is progress, evolution, growth only happens in humanity when an individual has the courage to live their truth no matter the cost. And that doesn't just mean, and it's a distraction on some level to look out at all the world's problems and be like, oh, those terrible Republicans, those terrible Democrats, those terrible socialists, those terrible whatever. That may be triggering something you, but ultimately that's a distraction. That's a circle of concern. We need to bring it back to our circle of influence. Where are you feeling the pull to live your truth? What are the hard conversations you're not having with yourself? What is that dream you're not pursuing? What is that relationship you're not going for? What is that area where you want to bring more love, but you're afraid? Where is that area at your work where you want to be the answer, but you're afraid? Where are you? Where is life trying to be born in you? If you just, is your room cleaned? Is your bed made? Then don't look at the environment and complain about it if it's not.
Good point.
Because
good point.
You have to start with your environment. And I'm saying this because that's where all the power is. All the power to change the world is in each and every one of us reclaiming our sovereignty and our agency, getting in touch with the truth and the life that wants to emerge through us. Stop trying to save the world. Serve the emerging vision in you, and you will become the savior. You will become the light. You will become the change. Gandhi wasn't just looking out at the world and going, oh, this terrible world. He was living it, modeling it, demonstrating it at any cost. People began to follow him, and he took down the British Empire without throwing a punch or shooting a gun. He took it down with the commitment to live the truth no matter what. Same with Martin Luther King Jr. That's the power. One individual in that level can change the world. It's called a trim tab also. On a giant boat, there's that big rudder, and it can't move the whole boat on its own, but there's a little trim tab. And when that little tab moves, the whole rudder moves and the giant boat moves. You can be the trim tab. We must be the trim tab. We must take responsibility to live our life fully and stop looking out at the world about how others aren't, and we will change the world.
A lot of what Derek's message here is to live the life that you are meant to live, to really come here and live your life's work. I want you to take a look here at this video of Derek in his element, teaching people who are really experiencing this sense of freedom and what it means to live your life's work. Take a look.
My vision and mission has always been to awaken people to their true identity, to inspire them to fulfill their destiny, so that together we can create a world that works for the highest good of all.
Emergence experience is about helping me and others get in touch with their passion, their purpose, who and what they are, and what it's going to take for them to live the life of their dreams.
The experience is like a dream come true.
Derek teaches us who we truly are.
Derek is truthful, he's honest.
You really are sitting on a storehouse of treasure. I'm going to do whatever it takes to live the life that I came here to live.
It changed my world, and it so deeply moved me.
I mean, it's like a whole new world has opened up.
What your soul is radiating and shining all the time. That destiny of greatness, that divine purpose, that infinite potential. Do you all realize this? Coded in your whole life, that started from those core wounds, is a divine design. And it's been shaping you and molding you and at least trying to prepare you to be the individual you're really meant to be, to deliver the gifts that you're really meant to deliver. Everything in each and every one of us, everything in our environment is conspiring to wake us up to our yes, to give us the strength and the courage to say yes to our yes, that we may put life on display. Yes? 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 I am the source. I am the source. Not my bank account, not my husband, not my wife, not my government, not my job. I am. And if I say yes to my yes, step out on the yes, and begin to design a way of life that's congruent with that yes, I'll start generating the supply that I need. What makes a life legendary is that you take those good ideas, that gift, and you actually live it. You actually write that play, write that book, launch that practice.
I've never had an experience of being surrounded by people who are actually transforming in front of my eyes.
I've had an amazing weekend full of transformation.
It has been a life-changing experience.
I go home energized, I go home with a plan, I go home with, I can work with this and I can do this.
Don't wait, do it!
I have to say yes to the yes.
Take a stand for your yes. Take a stand for your divinity. Take a stand that you are the life and the light and the source of infinite supply. And I will open up the windows and pour you out a blessing you can't even handle. We are completely loved, completely supported, completely guided, directed, recognized, and rewarded. Oh, feel that life is for you. Y'all want to live in a life where a blessing too big to receive keeps pouring? Yes! Then you got to live in your yes.
Everybody looked like they were so bright in that video, Derek. They're so full of life. And is that what it means to live your life's work? It doesn't have to do with your job, right?
Right. Your job is one of the elements of that, right? But like if you look at an ecosystem, is it the job of the oak tree to produce acorns? Would you call it its job?
No.
Would you call it the job of the otter to create, or is the otter, the beaver to create the dam, or the squirrel to plant the acorns? You know, the squirrel is basically the gardener of the forest. So the farmer of the forest. So there's, everything has a purpose and a function. And we came here to fulfill a function. And when we are in alignment with that function and we give the fruits of our nature, we create an ecosystem where everything works for everyone. Now, in that there's a circulation as the acorn is giving of its, or the creating an oak and giving of the acorns, and the squirrel is doing its job. It gets food, things get fertilized, more oak trees grow. When everybody is living their life's work, fulfilling their reason for being, the whole system works.
Yeah.
And it's abundant and it's overflowing. And that's also why, you know, when the fig tree wasn't producing figs, Jesus cursed it and it died. It's a message: bloom or be pruned. And that's what Brene Brown was saying about unexpressed creativity. Or in the Gospel of Thomas, it says, "What if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." Can you hear me still?
Yes,
if you do
yes.
not, if you do not
Yes.
bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. So I want people to understand, it's not what you bring in that saves you, it's what you bring forth from you. It's not what comes to you that destroys you. It's what you do not let come through you that destroys you.
Yes, if you do not let it come through you, then it turns into that cancer, that cells gone wrong. Yes.
It turns into stagnation. Life in abundance is all about circulation, right? And wherever there is circulation, there's a whole circuit, there's a flow, and then there's life. If you breathe in, which is receiving, but you stop, the circuit is broken, life stops happening. If you only breathe out and you stop, there's this giving, you're just giving, life stops happening. If you breathe in and breathe out, but you don't receive back, life stops working. It's a broken circuit. Circulation has to have that complete circuit. You have to give to yourself in order to give away, and then open to receive again. And when you do that in every area, whether it's the quality of love, the quality of joy, creativity, whatever area you experience a problem, there's a broken circuit. There's not circulation. And you have to, and that's actually what I talk more about in the Abundance Project versus Emergence, but it's all part of the process of emergence. Wherever there's circulation, there's life, there's growth, there's green. There, a bottle of water, you can drink from the body of water. If there's not circulation, it becomes a swamp.
Same with the body. If there's not enough circulation, you get inflammation. If you have stagnation in the body, then it turns into disease and inflammation. And
same with the economy. The economy, when we have a recession or a depression, it's not because there's a lack of resources. In fact, during the Great Depression, there was so much food that wasn't getting circulated, they had to take it down in train cars and burn it and dump it into the ocean. What happened was, because of the belief of lack and the fear of not enough, people stopped investing in themselves, in new business. They stopped circulating the abundance they had, and the circuit broke, the circulation stopped, and we had a swamp. Nothing changed. Apples were still growing, acorns were still growing, fish were still swimming, food was abundant, resource and opportunity was as abundant as it ever was and ever will be.
That's true.
We stopped circulating our life. We stopped living our life. We stopped living our life's purpose. We stopped living as if life was for us, and stagnation set in. And that's what happens in individual lives. It's what happens in our business, our family, our economy, and our country and beyond.
And on the other side of that, if you are mindlessly working, just spinning and spinning and spinning, and maybe going into a place of burnout without the purpose attached to it, without that emergence attached to it, it turns into a totally different situation. Now, in the show, I love to do a segment called the Aware News, and I always like to talk about current events and how it relates to your body of work in order to provide possibilities and solutions for a better world. And there is a statistic that I found in Inc. magazine about executives and CEOs, and especially for startups and entrepreneurs especially, that there is a sense of burnout for people, that these executives go into such a hyper speed, they can't even keep up with the pace. And they're looking for apps like Calm or Emergence or programs like yours, because they're actively seeking podcasts that can really give life-changing information, which is a really good thing. What do you suggest when someone comes to you with burnout?
Yeah, well, the first thing to understand is burnout, overwhelm, not enough time, all of these are made up because you'll never find a flora or fauna in nature that is like, I don't have enough time to be an oak tree. I'm so burned out being a platypus. So it's something we've created because we're disconnected from our true seed of potential. We're disconnected from our unique function. We got a message early on that said, when I was being myself and just digging in the dirt or reading books all day or doing that's not enough, or that's too much. And we're like, oh, I won't get love. I won't be safe. I'm not enough. And we began to create these layers of coping and protection. And then we drove to life to try to be enough, do enough, achieve enough, as I said, to feel that essential connection again to ourself, and fundamentally to feel loved enough, safe enough, trusting enough, and worthy enough to just be who we really are. That's the bottom line. And so all of the burnout and the overwhelm is being caused because we've lost connection to that, and we don't understand what that coping pattern is. So when I'm working with somebody, I help them to see What is that shadow or that values conflict that's making them believe they can't just be who they are and do what they're designed to do? What does that bump up against? And it's either that I'm going to fail, I'm going to be a loser, which means I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be worthy. And when we go right to the heart of that and we reintegrate that piece, that coping mechanism falls away. The clarity of what they should be doing and what they should stop doing, what they should do more of or less of, becomes evident. They reorganize their life around those new emerging values. And lo and behold, there's more flow, there's more ease, there's more grace. There's often more abundance with less effort, and things go to the next. And there's a deeper meaning and purpose to everything that they're doing.
It's and then when there are challenges that you come up against, I was reading about this article of Jen Rubio, the woman who created Away, the suitcase brand, that's now like a $22 million brand in just a matter of a couple of years. And they had the lithium batteries in the suitcases. Well, the airlines changed that and said you have to take your lithium batteries out of the suitcases. Well, theirs was screwed in, so people were ditching the suitcases, throwing their clothes in plastic bags and asking for refunds, and very, very upset with the company. So they had to pivot in a very, very fast way. But I've seen Jen Rubio interviewed several times, and she's got a fierce spirit, that one. And you could really tell that she's grown this company from a place of authenticity and created a culture around it, a huge social media culture around a suitcase. And it enabled her to fast track a lithium battery that they actually made that was removable. And they went into production. The whole team got around it. They hired a customer service company that called every one of their million customers and got this new battery out to them and refunded whatever they needed. I mean, they really went into gear because that's where they came from, is a place of authenticity and truth. That could have tanked that company, but
it came from her willingness. Has a vision, and her willingness to do the right thing, no matter the cost. Not merely for comfort, convenience, quarterly short-term results, but what's the truth here? What's the right thing? Steve Jobs, same thing. He got kicked out of Apple for trying to follow the vision. Then they brought him back because they lost the thread. And then they had all these products, and he said, get rid of everything but these two. You're crazy. No, it's the right thing. Bam, Apple became the most successful thing. Oprah. Spiritual TV and talking, doing interviews. No, you've got a good show, good thing going here, Oprah, don't blow it. Boom, she did it. The rest was history. Over and over again, this is what we see. If we're willing to have the courage to do the right, and it'll look different. It'll look like the example with this one company. It'll look like Thomas Edison following his vision of the light bulb, Walt Disney going bankrupt over and over, and people saying crazy. It'll look like Elon Musk almost losing everything, sleeping on a friend's couch to go into space, and he doesn't even know anything about astrophysics. Right. It'll look like what it has to look like for you. It'll look like you staying in a relationship and loving, or it'll look like you leaving one when everybody's saying, what do you mean? What about your security? How are you going to make a living? It'll look like what it needs to look like for you. But when you have the courage to discover, what is my truth? What is the vision for my life? What do I need to say or do or be to live into it as if I'm supported in being me and going for what I truly desire and need, and then doing the work and getting the support to keep stepping in that direction, things will fall away. Things will die away. The old branches will fall away. There will be dark nights of the soil where the roots will have to go deeper. But the deeper the roots, the taller the shoots and the richer the fruits. So you can't just keep going for the light if you don't dig down into the soil.
Right. And you see I'm sure that company took a huge financial hit from it, but they also created so much brand identity and loyalty that it'll wind up coming in the long run. It'll wind up working out. And that sometimes we don't weather those storms. We bail when it gets too tough, and we don't go through the winter with survival skills. Sometimes we do bail and give up at the wrong moment, and it feels like it's the right moment, but if you just last just a little longer and wait for that truth to emerge, then it turns into something magnificent that you could never have even seen. And like I said in the very, very beginning, that it only can come from within you. That's the place that no one else can touch but you.
Whatever's missing is what you're not giving. Whatever you're waiting for, you're the one weighing it down.
Yes.
Life never holds anything back from us. We hold ourselves back from life. And it's time to get on the ultimate weight loss program, WAIT. Lose all that weight. Say yes to your yes. Live the life you were born for, and watch as life says, thank you. Thank you. Now let me do my job and surprise and delight you.
Yes. Well, Derek, you're amazing. And I thank you so much for pouring into us today. And you can look up Derek's website at derekrydall.com. You've seen it there at the bottom. And thank you so much for just bringing us this whole concept of what's emerging from inside of us, that law of emergence. If you would like to watch more inspirational programming, you can check out my website, which is theawareshow.com. And you can reach out to me on Facebook at Lisa Garr Host. I'm Lisa Garr, and until next time, I invite you to stay aware.